Welcome to the Frugalpreneur podcast. I am your host, Sarah St. John, and my guest today is the co-creator of the X Factor Effect methodology, where he and his team have helped over 20,000 students and clients grow their businesses. He is also the author of Ideas That Influence. Welcome to the show, Daniel Den.
Hey, Sarah St. John. Such a pleasure to hang out with you here on the Frugalpreneur podcast. This is like episode I don't know, like 200 and 70 or something like that.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
Woo, let's go. That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's good to have you on. And some people might watch this on YouTube, others probably just listening, but you're wearing the Rainmaker shirt, which is your shirt. And I have one and I meant to wear it, but forgot.
Well, I really like your style. It's just like a black t-shirt that says Rainmaker, right? I mean, which is cool, but I really like your get up today. So
Oh, thank you.
very
Well,
stylish, much more stylish than me. Must be that Dallas, Texas influence. And yeah.
I think it might just be my own thing.
Oh, there you go. I was saying Texas is getting hip, but now I understand. Sarah St. John is making Texas.
Yep.
There
Yep.
you
That's
go.
what it is.
Now it all makes sense.
Well, so I first found out about you on the Branded podcast with my friends Larry Roberts and Sarah Losi, and I just loved it. And you were talking about, we'll get into that later, but yeah, you were talking about something we're going to talk about later that really interested me, and we'll get into that. But first, can you maybe give a little bit of your background, how you got into entrepreneurship and all of that?
Sure can. So there's so many stories. I am 41, so I'm kind of getting older now. And
That's how old I am, 41.
oh wow,
Yeah.
really? There
Yeah.
you go. Well, I was born in 82, so there we go.
Oh,
Um,
I was 83.
Eight,
So
yeah.
you
Well,
must
yeah,
be
I can
42
still,
soon.
yeah, I'm gonna be 42 soon. So there we go. But yeah, as a kid, we didn't have much money, so I would try to mow lawns and stuff like that. But once I discovered the internet, and so just cool side note, since we're both 41, did you know that makes us like the oldest millennials possible?
Yeah, well, it's like some people say we're not even millennials and then others say we are, but just barely.
Yeah, like we're barely millennials.
Yeah.
And so I remember grade, this thing in the library, we got the internet. We were like, nobody knew how to use it and it didn't do much at the time. And we're like, huh, okay. So yeah, this is weird. And then by the time I hit high school, we were really starting to use the internet a lot more. The money making opportunities just started to compound over the years for people like you and I. And by the time we were in our 20s, it's like, oh, all right. It's giving. Hey, for me personally, I first made my first dollars on eBay, became one of those super sellers. I don't even remember what we were called at the time. And then I transitioned into affiliate marketing. And this story does have a point. So right around 2009, I hit a home run as an affiliate marketer, as a super affiliate. And I had this website where I was making up to $1,000 a day in profit. I was like, I'm planning my retirement. I've made it. I've made it in life. Because if you can consistently for the rest of your life be making like $1,000 a day, you're in a good spot. You're in a great spot. Eventually, after about 6 months, I did have somebody completely rip off the website, completely copied the website, word for word. And I was like, oh man, this sucks. But I didn't feel the impact right away. And so I just kept on advertising it, buying ads and running traffic to it and making my profit. But then that one turned into 3, turned into 5, eventually turned into more than 50. After about a year or so of these copycat competitors, I'd say that it ended with probably right over 100 copycat competitors who just completely ripped off my website. And I eventually stopped running traffic to the website and moved on to bigger and better things. And that bigger and better thing was I was really frustrated, and rightfully so, that people so easily copied my business. And that is right around the time that I met up with my now business partner down in Brazil, Pedro Superti. And we started creating this methodology called the X Factor effect methodology, where people could differentiate their business, become market leaders and category kings and queens, and differentiate themselves to the point where they became uncopyable inside of their niche markets. Because we had a lot of clients that were sick of the price wars and the copycat competitors, just like we were. And so we were, I guess you could say, perfect candidates for creating this methodology and helping people differentiate and innovate in ways where they could become uncopyable in their niche markets. And for the past 12-ish years, I've been working with Pedro Superti, and that's where we've been able to help over 20,000 students and clients grow their businesses.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. So how did you meet Pedro?
I met Pedro because his brother-in-law at the time, I had met his brother-in-law as a Mormon missionary. I'm no longer Mormon, but I was a Mormon missionary in Brazil.
Mm.
And so Pedro's brother-in-law, I had met him when I was a missionary, and then he saw that I was doing all this online marketing stuff. And then he was like, "Oh, you should meet up with Pedro because Pedro has this marketing agency and he's doing some cool stuff." And so we jumped on Skype. I was like, "Wait, was it Skype?" Yeah. For those of you that have ever heard of Skype, which
Yeah, does that even I mean, I
people still
imagine
use
it still
Skype.
exists, but
Yeah, people still use Skype. So anyway, we did a Skype call like 12 years ago. That's where I met up with him, and we were like, "Hey, people really need this stuff. They need our help, and we've got insider knowledge from the United States. Nobody's doing it in Brazil." And so we used Brazil as a testing ground, as a blue ocean. Now we're spreading our methodologies worldwide, but it all started down in Brazil. So a lot of our students, our first students, came straight out of Brazil, and they were the first Fator X, which means X Factor. They were the first Fator X students down in Brazil.
so are you able to share some of your methodology on the podcast or maybe tips on how you can differentiate yourself, make yourself uncopyable?
Yeah, I mean, so and when it comes to becoming a frugalpreneur, I mean, this is perfect because if you can differentiate yourself in a way where you become uncopyable, then it's a lot cheaper than trying to advertise the hell out of your business, right? Just
Mm.
dropping buckets and buckets and buckets of money to try to build a brand, quote unquote. There's a time and a place where for every dollar you put in, it brings back 5 and 10 and 15, but you're not there yet in the beginning. And usually it's because you lack some aspect of differentiation where you look just like everybody else in the market. You are caught up in the sea of sameness. And so we have 9 main pillars that we teach, every single one of them a full course. So we won't be able to go into massive detail, but I can share a few of them. So, for example, we'll actually start with the one that you can't avoid. We say marry the perfect avatar. Now, of course, here on the Frugalpreneur podcast, you've spoken multiple times about the need to pinpoint your avatar, right? You can't just sell to everyone. Sarah, you've pinpointed your avatar as you work mainly with podcasters, right?
Mhm.
That's your tribe. You understand them. That's the type of person you attract, and you work really well with them. Most business owners still haven't dialed in their avatar. If we're going to differentiate ourselves to the point where we're going to become uncopyable, you have to start with there. So that's the one pillar where it's like the boring pillar, where it's like, "Oh, I've heard this before. Got to dial in my avatar." But we got to reinforce it. You have to dial in the perfect avatar. And when we say marry the perfect avatar, we say you want to choose the avatar that's your dream customer, and you want to be able to also attract that dream customer. So if I state my dream customer as boomers that are making over $10 million a year, if that is my dream customer, but I really suck at attracting boomers making over $10 million a year, then there's no marriage there. There needs to be a marriage there. Usually that marriage occurs because you're able to provide your dream customers with a want, a need, or desire that you've accomplished yourself because of some past version of yourself. And so that's why Sarah St. John is such a great podcast host and why she's so great at attracting people that are looking to grow their podcast, because she has done the same thing. So if you want to be where Sarah is today, she's got a blueprint and she can help you get there. And so that's the first pillar, where it's like the boring, undeniable, we have to at least do this one pillar. Any thoughts on the first pillar, marrying the perfect avatar?
Well, I mean, yeah, you have to niche down and find your avatar. Otherwise, I definitely agree with that. That's definitely the
Yeah.
first step, is finding out who you serve and how you serve them. Definitely agree with that.
Yeah, niching down. It's one of my favorite analogies, just so everybody finally has a sticky concept. I'm all about sticky concepts, right? We'll eventually get into the book, right? My favorite analogy is you go on a camping trip. Sarah's going on a camping trip. She's out of water, okay? But there's a lake, all right? And so you turn on your stove, you get it all prepared because you need to boil some water. You would not go prepare your stove. It's all fired up. It's ready to boil the water. And then you wouldn't throw your stove into the lake. Now, why does this analogy work? Because if you haven't dialed in who your dream customer is, essentially you're trying to boil the lake. You are trying to boil the lake because you're trying to sell to everyone. But if you handpick that portion of, I almost said agua. There we go. Just because I speak one word of Portuguese, I'm like, okay, now we're going to speak Portuguese. No. So if you're handpicking that portion of water and then you put it on the stove in your pot, you can boil that up and then it's good to go. That's what we need to do. That's the concept there of niching down. You don't try to boil the lake. You try to warm up a portion of who you're trying to get excited about your products and services. So
Oh, I love that analogy. Analogies are good. That they help people visualize. Although for people watching the video version of this, you're like demonstrating you picking up water. I'm like, well, you probably wouldn't want to pick it up with your hands. You'd want to be in some.
yeah. Well, my hands.
But we get the point.
My hands were my pot.
Oh, okay.
Like we're scooping it up with my imaginary pot hand. So now that the boring quote unquote pillar is out of the way, then I can talk about a few of the more exciting ones. One of my favorite ones is to lead your tribe. So when it comes to differentiating yourself to the point where you are uncopyable, the tribe Sarah St. John is going to build is always going to be different than the tribe that Daniel Den is going to build. Sarah attracts different people than Daniel. Daniel attracts different people than Sarah. The traits, the rituals, the benefits, the experiences, everything that we share inside of the tribe and do as members of the tribe. In my tribe, it will be different than your tribe. And so the frugalpreneur tribe is a radically different group and way of doing things, and the experience is going to be unique. Unique because we are leading our tribe, and unique because we attract different people, and unique because we've branded our tribe in different ways, and unique because we do things different inside of our tribe in different ways. So one of the easiest ways to differentiate yourself is to, yes, be like Harley Davidson, be like Apple, be like the frugalpreneurs, build a tribe, build a community. Down in Brazil, we called ourselves the Black Sheep tribe because we did things differently. We think differently, and we're constantly trying to innovate. And normal, quote unquote, people view us as black sheep because we're trying to change the world. And so we had a tribe down there of black sheep. The current name for my tribe with the X Factor effect methodology in English, I'm saying we're rainmakers. Black sheep are cool, but I wanted to do rainmakers. I wanted to differentiate my tribe in English from the tribe down in Brazil in Portuguese. So the whole point here is it's a great way to differentiate yourself. And if it would be laughable, this is why this is so uncopyable. If I tried to create my own frugalpreneur tribe and drive people to my tribe in a very similar way that Sarah St. John has done, eventually people are going to say, Daniel, you're trying to be just like Sarah. That's silly. She's already built that tribe. right? And so
Mhm.
that's one of the reasons why it's it's a more uncopyable trait. On the flip side, if we say, well, what is a copyable trait? My website as a super affiliate that sold like crazy, what did people copy? They just ripped off the word. Most of the time, they ripped off word for word my website, the
Mm.
sales copy, and sometimes they changed a few sentences to fall within quote unquote copyright laws. Which, by the way, if somebody steals your ad copy or your headline or whatever, it's really hard to try to sue somebody over that. So
Mhm.
I didn't even try. I knew how difficult it is to try to get people to stop copying something that's so easily copyable. The barrier of entry for somebody to swipe my ad copy compared to build a similar tribe as me is worlds of difference apart. Swiping my ad copy takes 5 seconds. Building a tribe the way I've built a tribe, that can take years.
Mhm.
And that's
Mhm.
why those uncopyable traits.
Yeah, I love that. Build your tribe. Nail down your avatar. Or how did you phrase it with your avatar?
We say marry the perfect
Ah,
avatar,
and build your tribe.
lead the
Yeah, I
tribe.
love that.
So those are two of them. There's 9 total. I'll share 1 or 2 more. One of our favorite things, we say join the age of experience. And concept here is that people are tired of buying stuff, just buying stuff. So we all have access to enough stuff. Some of our houses are filled to the brim with too much stuff because stuff is too easily available. And that's why lots of people pay for junk removal companies to come out, and they'll pay for storage that they're never going to look at ever again because people have too much stuff. But with this abundance of stuff, which we're all blessed to have so much stuff, what do people want when they already have everything? I mean, it's the whole, if you still have parents that are alive, it's the whole, well, what am I going to buy my parents for Mother's Day, for Father's Day, for their birthday? They already have everything. So what
Mhm.
am I going to give them? Right? People are sick of stuff and buying stuff, but people still love a great experience. So what you do, even if you sell stuff, is you attach a great experience to the product or service that you offer. What people do not have enough of is a great experience. People love amazing experiences. So we say, make your product not stuff by adding great experiences to it, and make your services the same way as well. Your service isn't just a service. Your service is a service that fulfills the promises of the service, but it's also an experience.
Yeah, I love that. That actually reminds me of, because I guess I'll bring that up now. The interactive book box experience. If you're watching the video version, you can see it. I won't open it and spoil it for anybody. I mean, I will show you that this book comes in there.
Yeah, there you go. Ideas that
Yeah.
influence.
I'm curious, how did you get the idea to do the book box experience?
The idea for the box experience came as I was sitting in a mastermind in Mexico between some friends. To one side of me was Ashley and Josh Latimer, amazing couple. They have this kid war plan journal. See if I have it with me. There it is. So the kid war plan journal. So they were talking about how this flies off the shelf. It's like 97 bucks. It's an entrepreneurial journal for kids. Okay. The kid war plan journal. The pages are, they make it like all age, and it's really hard for them to
Mhm.
produce, and people like absolutely love it. So I was like, yeah, people love it because it's different. People love it because it's an experience, and people love it because it's an experience that benefits their kid. So they were talking about that. And then to the other side of me was Mark Stern, and he has an agency called the Custom Box Agency. And he was talking about how he gets so many people to move down the sales funnels and increase their conversion rates when they do these box experiences. And I had just finished writing Ideas That Influence, and it was in the editing process. I'm sitting there and I'm the X Factor effect guy, and I'm thinking to myself, am I going to launch this book just like everybody else? Or am I going to practice what we preach and do things differently? And I said, you know what I think I got to do? I said, I think I got to create the first ever free plus shipping interactive book box experience where people will have never seen anything like it, but it's the book. And then it comes with this box experience, and you open certain envelopes while you're reading the book, and you get access to different tools and everything. And Josh, he's like, that's an amazing idea, Daniel. I've got one question. If you do this, do you think it will double conversion rates? I'm thinking about like how cool this concept is. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I think it will. I think it can double conversion rates where I will sell at least twice as many books if it comes with this amazing box experience. And he said, if you think it's going to double conversion rates, then you got to do it. All right, there you go. That's it. I got to practice what we preach. I got to join the age of experience. I got to create this amazing experience with this book. And then I spent a lot more time than I wanted to in order to produce it because I had never done anything like it before. We had some delays with some of the pieces that came mass produced from China so that we could put the box experience together, but it was worth it.
Yeah. So did you have to like redo or add parts to the book?
I was really smart about that. So I told my editor, I said, okay, I have like these paragraphs I can show you really fast where at certain points in the book, I'm just going to have like this little thing that says, okay, time out, go to the interactive book box experience. So there's different parts in the book where it says, okay, now go in your box experience and do this scratch off and open this envelope and things like that. And so there's, I think, 9 parts in the book. And so I basically just needed to add like 9 paragraphs that called out.
Okay.
And then I added those same things in the audiobook version. I just added a little audio blurb that was like, okay, and now it's time to go and do this inside of the box. So
Well, that's good that you didn't have to like really edit the content. You just added those little, yeah, that's nice.
the only reason why I was able to do it that way so easily was because the book was already very well laid out and structured in a logical way. There's 3 natural parts in the book: step 1, step 2, step 3, for being able to come up with, test, and launch your next wildly successful marketing ideas.
Sweet Dash is the ultimate all-in-one business software platform designed to simplify your operations and supercharge your growth. Say goodbye to tech tool overload and hello to a single unified system that handles CRM, proposals, scheduling, contracts, invoicing, subscriptions, project management, client portals, file sharing, and marketing, all in one place. With Sweet Dash, you'll enjoy one login to streamline your business, saving you time and sanity. No code automations that put your business on autopilot by slashing manual tasks. The real kicker? Unlimited users and clients. This means you can invite your team, clients, and contractors without worrying about extra fees. But Sweet Dash isn't just about software, it's about community. Their roadmap thrives on user feedback and live support sessions. Ensure you're never alone on your journey to success. Trusted by tens of thousands of small businesses with over 1,000 glowing 5-star reviews on Capterra and G2, Sweet Dash is a platform you've been waiting for. You can try it free, no credit card required, at sweetdash.com. That's SUITEDASH.com. Sweet Dash. One login, one platform, one low price, unlimited potential. So there's 3. I meant to get this read by the time. Did you want to kind of go over the 3 steps?
The easiest way to talk about the book, because this all ties back to the X Factor effect. So one of the pillars is create ideas that influence. So we revealed 3. We revealed marry the perfect avatar, lead your tribe, join the age of experience, and now create ideas that influence. Creating ideas that influence is all about coming up with big, bold, sticky, and wildly successful marketing and business ideas. That's what it is. Ideas that move the needle in a big way in your business. And this has been vetted with our students. This has been tons of research with me and my team over the years. Basically, it comes down to this. There's 7 main elements for wildly successful marketing and business ideas. If you're intelligent and you understand the whole avatar thing, that you know that one of the 7 elements has to do with avatar, right? Inside of the book, we say, first of all, wildly successful, sticky, bold marketing messages. They put their audience center stage. They make it all about the audience. So it's not about you, it's all about the audience. So that's one of the elements. Another one of the elements is that it's focused on a big single concept or idea, which is extremely important because there's a recent Forbes article that says that we're all exposed to about 4 to 10,000 different marketing pieces and ads every single day. And so if you imagine all the noise on the internet and when you're driving and even in just walking around your home, all the little things like vying for your attention, 4 to 10,000, that's insane. And so what's needed for a marketing message that breaks through the noise, undeniably, it has to be focused. If you're a Perry Belcher fan, there's a really cool thing that he taught way back in the day when I first was getting into marketing inside of one of his courses. It was the big thing, that was a big aha moment. And he said, most people make the mistake in marketing and in business of trying to introduce a second big concept or idea as part of their marketing message or part of what they're selling. So in other words, instead of selling one thing, they'll try to sell two things to you at the same time. And he said, they'll try to introduce this second big concept and they think that they're going to increase their conversion rates. But the opposite happens. What happens is they usually cut their conversion rates in half. And the reason why for this is because there's just too much noise. We can't handle it. If people talk about 2 things or 3 things, or 5 things, they talk about none, right? And so you got to talk about one big thing and then your message can stick. And so that's 2 of the elements. Put your audience center stage, and then 2, have it focus on a single big concept or idea. I'll quickly list off the last 5 elements, and then we can talk about any one of them that you want to talk about, Sarah. So if you want to make a mental note, like, oh, that one's interesting, then we can talk about those ones. We don't have all the time in the world.
Right.
It's an entire book.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So really quick. So the third element is that it has an X factor. Then we have it evokes emotion. We have that it shares a story. We have it sticky and or shareable. And then the last one is it provides an aha moment. So with those additional 5, that's the 7 elements. And if you can have 5, 6, or 7 of those elements as part of your marketing message, then you have a winner usually that's going to break through the noise and really grab the attention of your dream customers.
We could talk about the storytelling because you have the 3 P's of storytelling: personal, peer, and public.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to hear about that.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. So the whole concept around stories and analogies and everything is that at the end of the day, when you're sitting down and you're listening to Sarah's stories and Daniel's stories on the Frugalpreneur podcast, tomorrow, if there's anything that you remember, it's usually a story, analogy, something along those lines. So we've shared, 10 different stories so far. I don't know which one impacted the listener the most today. We shared a couple of analogies. We talked about not boiling the lake, which is a cool analogy.
Before we started recording, we were talking about Austin, Texas, and the Lady Bird Lake. Well, it's a whole rabbit hole, but boiling the lake. Sorry, I just had to interject that. That could be a good, if I ever start a true crime podcast about the Lady Bird Lake situation, I could call it Boiling the Lake. Anyway, sorry, go on.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a sticky story as well. That's memorable because Sarah's like, well, Daniel, then Sarah's like, Daniel, Austin might not be as cool as we think because there's this lake and they found like 30 dead bodies in the lake. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Like, might be like a serial killer. And I'm like, you know what, Sarah? You're great at the entrepreneur podcast, but maybe you should also be doing a true crime podcast as well. The thing about stories is this: stories move us to take action. So, for example, just the simple concept of don't boil the lake. So, analogy stories. When you listen to a story versus listening to a fact, what happens is facts are facts. Bullet points are bullet points, lists of steps and to-do items, they're just lists. And then if you give me, okay, Daniel, you need to do step 1 through 20, then it's like, well, okay, they get in line because I already have steps 1 through 700 that I need to be doing in my business. So you just added 20 more. So now I have 720 steps. Thank you so much. Right? That's the problem with just spouting off facts and telling people step 1, step 2, step 2, step 5, step 10 without context, without stories, then it feels like overwhelm and it doesn't move us to action. But when we share an analogy of don't boil the lake, something can click, neurons in people's heads connect, and then they say, oh, now I get it. Now I understand why people have been telling me to niche down this whole time and why it has been so detrimental to my business because I've been trying to boil the lake. And then because people finally like really connect and really resonate with what you're teaching, then they're moved to take action and they're like, all right, I got to prioritize this. Now I'm going to finally niche down. Likewise, if I share a story about how I had this website, I was making $1,000 a day and it was so easily copyable, then you as a listener might have resonated and been like, oh, you know what? That's why people have been copying my business so easily, all my great ideas, because every single thing I've implemented, the barrier of entry to copy it is too easy. It's just too easily copyable. And so it's great to have a new idea, but if it's too easily copyable, then everybody's just going to get in line once I've put all the grunt work in to see if it works. And people are just going to swipe it, just like they swiped Daniel. And then you're like, oh, so now I need to start thinking more strategically and I need to go deeper and I need to differentiate in ways that are more uncopyable. And I need to stack my differences that make a difference in a way where I'm such a unicorn in my market that people can't touch me. And then I really start to be viewed as that market leader or that category king or category queen because I've positioned myself as a real leader that really differentiates, that has lots of X factors inside of my business that makes me very desirable to my dream customers. And so that's conceptually why it's so important for us to use story as part of our marketing message. And then tactically, the way it's done is that there's the 3 P's of storytelling, which are personal stories, peer stories, and public stories. Personal stories are the stories that are closest to you, which, by the way, are the least likely to be copied because they're your own personal stories. Pretty much people can't copy your personal stories, which is another great differentiator to use personal stories. Peer stories are the stories about your friends and family, people 1 degree of separation away from you. And sometimes the story about your mom involved you, but you're telling the story about your mom. It involved you. And it's another great type of story. Testimonials fall into this category of great stories that can really boost your marketing message. Your customers' stories are more powerful than you just talking about how great your business is. And so there's personal stories, the stories closest to you, peer stories, 1 level of separation away from you, and then public stories are the stories in the public that affect us all. And if we share our take on it, our opinions on it, then people resonate with public stories as well because they are the type of story that affects us all.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I love alliteration. So anytime it's like the 3 P's or whatever, I love that. Which, by the way, both of our names have alliteration.
Except mine's fake, so
Oh, is it?
yep, and I love and
Do you have a story here?
I like revealing. Yeah, there's a story behind it. There
I want to hear the story.
story, yeah. And people remember the story. So there you go. So the story behind it is so my actual last name is Pereira. And Pereira is a very popular name in Brazil and in Spanish as well, and in Portuguese. It got to the point working with Pedro, and this is just super interesting from a personal branding aspect. So if you are considering your personal brand, maybe you're going to get an aha moment, and maybe this is going to move you. And then this further reinforces why stories move people and why it's so important to teach through stories. For me personally, I started working with Pedro, and for the first 2 years, I was known as Daniel Pereira. The problem with that is that Portuguese is my second language. and I would get up on video and I would speak perfect, quote unquote, Portuguese with an American accent. Okay. So I was speaking grammatically correct Portuguese with an American accent. They weren't buying it. The comments were rolling in. Why is this guy just pretending to be an American over and over and over again? Every single day, at least one comment of this guy's pretending. His name's Daniel Pereira. He speaks Portuguese. He's pretending to be American. Why the fake accent? And I'm like, no, you don't get it. This is really the public perception. When you're like promoting videos, you're putting more and more out there on social media. It gets out of control. You can't individually like tell everybody, no, actually, no, I really am American. It's just too burdensome. And so from a personal branding aspect, we had a disconnect with my name in Brazil, my legally given name. By the way, my dad was born in Venezuela, and that's why my last name legally is Pereira. We had this disconnect and perception in the market. There was a need for a personal brand change. And so Pedro is actually the one that was like, you know what? I think I got alliteration. It'll be easy for the Brazilians to remember, and they won't think that you're Brazilian, or it's going to be Daniel Din. And at first I hated it. I was like, ah. And then I was like, all right, we'll give it a shot. And yeah, it worked. And so we switched me over from being Daniel Pereira down in Brazil to Daniel Din. And then it actually worked out really well for me to just say, okay, from here on out, moving forward, my professional name is Daniel Din, and then I have my legal name for everything else. So
Yeah, I love that. And it kind of reminds me of Daniel in the Lion's Den.
yes, there's that as well. There is that as well. And now the only problem logistically, for a side note, personal branding. So you want to get the SEO for your name. I'm finally, because I've been doing so many podcasts, appearances, and have more and more videos out there on social media and stuff, I'm finally partially ranking for Daniel Din. And then it's like half of the listings actually show my stuff in some way, shape, or form, or like a podcast interview or something. And then the other half are like, yeah, Daniel on the dot lines in.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, more considerations when it comes to personal brand for those of you working on figuring out your personal branding. So
Yeah, I love that. Maybe the last thing I'd like to talk about is if someone wanted to create a book box experience, how do you even start in terms of gathering ideas for what to put in them and then how to
right.
try to do it affordably?
So the best advice I have, if you are going to turn your book into an experience, there is actually a book that I have, and I use it as an example when this question comes up. So I suggest going much more simpler than I did. So if you've ever bought Michelle Cunningham's Free Plus Shipping book, Do It Anyway, Girl, which I have, because that's just how I roll, right? You know, gotta support my friend Michelle Cunningham. So anyway, so I bought this book. She has a much more simplified version of creating an experience with what she does. I went all out. What she does is she has a few little inserts that come with it, which are a lot cheaper to do. And then she has this really bright pink packaging that it comes in the mail with. And when it arrived, I didn't grab the mail before my daughters did. My youngest daughter, she runs, what is it? What is it, Daddy? What is it? Like, I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's my book. She's like, can I keep the packaging? Cause it's just this super neon pink packaging that she put it in. And I opened it up and there were some really cool little inserts. And it was an experience in and of itself. And it was a lot. When it comes to frugality, it was a lot more cheaply done, but still very impactful at the same time. And so that's one approach to do it. If you're going all out like I did, then what you need to do logistically is that the book has to be structured very, very well, where you have clear checkpoints inside of the book and you're leading people towards a result. Because I worked with Mark Stern. He helped me put together the box experience. He helped me source the items. He said, thank goodness you structured the book the way you did, or this would have been a mess. Because the average book, And when I say the average book, we're not dissing the average book, but the average book, we're not talking about the top 1% of books. We're talking about the average book. The average book is not well put together. That's just the reality of it. And so structure it really well. Keep in mind different tools and extras and bonuses that people could use and have access to at certain points in the book in order to help them achieve a result. And so our book is a very good mix of, if you wanted to just read the book and be inspired, there are tons of stories, examples, and tons of things that you can glean from just by reading the book, and lots of sticky, shareable moments, aha moments inside of the book. It's got it all, right? But at the same time, if you are in need of a big, bold, sticky, and wildly successful marketing campaign, the book promises that, and then it actually delivers that step by step as you go through the chapters. So that by the end, if you followed the advice in the book and gone through the box experience, you can have launched a wildly successful marketing campaign as well.
Yeah, I love that. And if people want to see firsthand what that experience is like, they can go to Big Ideas Box and get their box, and it is free plus shipping. So it's like $20 and you get the book and everything in it, which I don't want to spoil. But yeah, when you were on the branded podcast, I saw and I was like, oh, I have to do that. I have to get that box. So I love that. I love just everything you're doing.
Because of the experience, right?
Yes. Yeah, it makes you hard to forget.
Hopefully that serves as another example of this whole X Factor effect
Mhm.
thing. So I have a bookshelf full of business books that I have not read. We all have it, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I got another book, but which ones did I actually read? Right.
Mm.
And so when you can deliver people an amazing experience on top of the product or service, this is beyond book. This is communities. This is courses. This is e-commerce products, selling on Amazon, whatever it is. You can include things. Some of the best listings I've seen that have sold like wildfire on Amazon, it's the product and it's bundled with all these extra little goodies that
Mhm.
enhance the experience. And then people just go crazy over it. At the end of the day, if you look at what Amazon, because Amazon, for just being honest with ourselves, is a bit predatory. If you start selling a one-off item that sells like crazy, that's too easily copyable, then Amazon will copy it.
Mm.
You create a one-off that is part of an entire experience, then you will have raised the barrier of entry for Amazon to easily one-off it themselves and just create their own listing with a similar product. They'll be like, oh no, like that was too much work. We're not going to copy that one, because they're cherry picking the easy stuff that they can one off and then start selling for themselves because they own all the data, right? But
Mhm.
that's back to the differentiation thing and back to the story of how I was so easily copied when I had my website where I was making up to $1,000 a day profit. If it's too easily copyable, then you need to say, okay, what I have is a starting point. Now let's start stacking the differences that make a difference. And let's start adding differentiators, and let's start innovating in ways where we become more uncopyable. And then when people look to us and decide that's worth copying, then instead of them actually copying you, they say, yeah, but that's too much work. I'm not. And then they respect you and they're like, one of the best. Then you have that positioning as a market leader or a category king or queen, and then you win.
Yeah, and I noticed the book isn't on Amazon, I don't think, right? You
That
can
was on
only
purpose. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, because that would it's like, well, you couldn't really sell it on Amazon because then all the little prompts about to go to the box and stuff would be irrelevant, so, yeah.
Yeah, I can send boxes to Amazon and sell it on Amazon, but then I wouldn't have my OTOs. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
customer data, my entire funnel. People told me I was crazy for not putting such an amazing book on Amazon. I realize I'm missing out on readers, but at the same time, it was all on purpose. And one
Mhm.
day I might still put just the normal book on Amazon, but to fully practice what we were preaching and to fully give people a full experience along with the book, I wanted to give people the option to buy it first
Mhm.
as the box experience. So, but yeah, thank you for mentioning that, Sarah. Yeah, bigideasbox.com is where you can experience it for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I really appreciate your time today coming on and sharing some stories and about the book box experience and all of that. So thanks so
Yeah.
much. I really
Thank
appreciate
you,
it.
Sarah St. John. Thank you, frugalpreneurs. Let's change the world together.
Sounds good. We'll start with reading the big box or reading ideas that influence and going through the big box.
Nice. Let's go.